Today, the African elephant is the largest land mammal, yet it looks like a dwarf beside the colossal titans of the past. An elephant weighs about 6 tons, and physics suggests that land animals shouldn't get much bigger without collapsing under their own weight. This is due to the square cube law, which states that as an object grows, its volume increases much faster than its surface area. If you simply scaled up an elephant to the size of a dinosaur, its bones would instantly snap under the crushing pressure. However, sauropods reached weights of 80 tons and walked the earth for millions of years without their skeletons ever failing them. How did these biological skyscrapers defy the laws of physics that constrain every other land animal we see on Earth today? The answer lies in a unique biological blueprint, consisting of 4 evolutionary pillars that allowed them to break the size limit. The first pillar is their skeletal structure. Mammal bones are dense and solid, making them incredibly heavy as the animal grows larger. Sauropods, however, evolved hollow bones filled with air sacs, similar to the lightweight structure we see in modern birds today. This evolutionary trait significantly reduced their overall body weight, while maintaining the structural integrity needed to support their massive frames. These air sacs were connected to the respiratory system, meaning their skeleton was literally inflated with air to keep them light. Without these hollow bones, their iconic long necks would have been too heavy to lift, making their feeding strategy impossible. Nature acted like a master engineer, using the same principles found in modern construction cranes to maximize strength while minimizing weight. This weight reduction allowed them to traverse soft ground in environments that would trap a solid-boned animal of the same size. The second pillar is their advanced respiratory system. Moving such a massive body requires an enormous amount of oxygen and energy. Mammals breathe in and out, stopping oxygen absorption during exhalation. Dinosaurs, however, utilized a continuous flow system like modern birds. This meant they were absorbing oxygen constantly, both when inhaling and exhaling, fueling their gigantic muscles with unmatched efficiency. This supercharged respiratory system provided the metabolic power needed to move 80 tons of flesh and bone against the force of gravity. But oxygen was not the only benefit. Large animals face the danger of overheating as their massive bodies trap immense heat. The extensive system of air sacs throughout their body acted as an internal radiator, preventing them from being cooked from the inside. This allowed them to remain active in the hot prehistoric climates, where a mammal of that size would likely die of heat stroke. Together, hollow bones and avian lungs created a lightweight, high-energy chassis that set the stage for their unprecedented growth. The third pillar involves reproduction. For mammals, growing large requires a massive investment of energy into a long and exhausting pregnancy. An elephant carries a calf for nearly 2 years. If that single offspring dies, years of energy investment are completely wasted. Sauropods bypass this biological bottleneck by laying clutches of eggs, effectively externalizing the energy cost of reproduction to the environment. The mother did not need to carry the weight of her young. She simply laid the eggs and returned to eating. This strategy allowed them to produce hundreds of offspring a year. Even if most died, a few would survive to become giants. By freeing herself from pregnancy, the mother could direct 100% of her metabolic energy into growing her own massive body size. The young grew at an astonishing rate, fueled by the rich ecosystem, racing to reach a size where predators could not touch them. This numbers game ensured the survival of the species without placing the physical burden of survival on the mother's body. It is a biological marvel that an animal weighing 80 tons started its life inside an egg no larger than a soccer ball. This efficient reproductive system was a key factor that allowed their populations to thrive and their bodies to reach impossible sizes. The final and perhaps most critical pillar is their feeding strategy. To get big, you must eat, but you must eat efficiently. Mammals spend hours chewing their food to break it down. This requires heavy jaw muscles and large, heavy teeth to function. A heavy head requires a short, thick neck to support it. This limits the animal's range and forces it to move constantly. Sauropods abandoned chewing entirely. They evolved to swallow vegetation whole, allowing them to have a tiny, lightweight head. Because their head was so light, their neck could elongate to incredible lengths, turning them into stationary biological vacuum cleaners. They could stand in one spot and strip mine the energy from the forest for hours, saving the massive energy cost of walking. Instead of chewing, their massive stomachs acted as fermentation vats, holding food for weeks to extract every ounce of nutrition. They also swallowed stones called gastroliths, which churned inside their stomachs to grind the food. Doing the work, their teeth did not. While an elephant burns energy walking to the next bush, the sauropod spends zero energy moving and 100% of its time eating. This feeding efficiency, combined with the lush flora of the era, allowed them to intake the hundreds of pounds of food required daily. Their long necks granted them exclusive access to the canopy, a food source free from competition, further securing their dominance. These four pillars: hollow bones, avian lungs, quantity reproduction, and no chewing digestion, formed the perfect biological storm for gigantism. It was a convergence of evolutionary traits that created the most magnificent land animals to ever exist on our planet. So, why don't we see animals of this magnitude today? Why has nature stopped producing giants of the sauropod scale? The conditions of the Mesozoic era were unique, offering a perfect climate and abundant vegetation that may never be repeated again. Furthermore, the rise of intelligent, agile predators would likely decimate the defenseless young of a species that relies on quantity reproduction. Evolution has shifted towards quality over quantity, favoring complex brains and parental care over raw size and mass reproduction. The sauropods remain a testament to what represents the absolute upper limit of biological engineering on land. They push the laws of physics to the breaking point, proving that, with the right design, life can overcome impossible barriers. Looking into the past, we realize that these were not monsters, but masterpieces of nature, optimized for a world of giants. We may build skyscrapers of steel and glass, but nature built skyscrapers of bone and blood long before we arrived. Imagine if they were still here. Our world would look very different if we had to share it with 80-ton vegetarians. While they are gone, their blueprint remains in the birds we see today, a subtle reminder of their glorious reign. Every time you see a bird breathe or fly, you are witnessing the same biological mechanics that powered the largest animals ever: hollow bones, efficient lungs, mass reproduction, and passive feeding. The four keys that unlock the door to being a giant. Their story is one of success, dominating the planet for over 100 million years, far longer than humans have existed. It took a cosmic cataclysm to finally bring them down, because Earth itself could not design a better biological machine. They left their bones in the stone as a puzzle for us to solve, teaching us the limits of biology. Science continues to uncover new details about their lives, refining our understanding of how these impossible giants defied the odds. From the tall Brachiosaurus to the massive Argentinosaurus, this blueprint was adapted in many ways, but the core principles remained constant. We haven't even touched on their hearts, which must have been massive pumps capable of fighting gravity to feed the brain. Every aspect of their life, from sleeping to mating, was dictated by their immense size and the physics of their world. We often imagine a majestic world of giants, but beneath the surface lay a battlefield where painkillers and hospitals did not exist. In this unforgiving era, a simple broken bone or a deep scratch was not just an injury, it was often a death sentence. Today we examine the fossilized evidence of extreme suffering, proving that life millions of years ago was a constant war against pain. Let us open the first medical file of the most unfortunate predator to ever walk the earth, the famous Allosaurus named Big Al. Big Al was a walking pathology report, carrying 19 separate bone fractures and infections that would cripple any modern animal today. His skeleton reveals broken ribs that healed poorly, suggesting he took a massive blow to the chest while pursuing nimble prey. Imagine living with a broken back without rest, forced to run and fight while every movement sends shock waves of agony through your spine. For a predator, weakness means starvation, and Al spent years of his life pushing through excruciating injuries just to secure his next meal. However, it was not the broken ribs or the fractured spine that finally ended the reign of this resilient Jurassic hunter. Ultimately, it was not a clash of titans that killed him, but a swollen, infected toe that prevented him from hunting prey. The infection spread to his bones, leading to a slow, feverish death, leaving behind a skeleton that tells a story of suffering. Now we move to another patient, the Dilophosaurus, a creature often misunderstood due to fictional portrayals in popular Hollywood movies. Forget the small, venom-spitting creature you saw on screen. The real animal was a large, powerful apex predator of its time. The fossil record of one specific individual reveals a humerus that was shattered and healed in a completely twisted, deformed angle. This predator likely suffered a catastrophic injury while grappling with large prey, leaving its arm useless and dangling by its side. The pain of such a compound fracture would be blinding, yet nature offered no relief, only the immediate need to survive. Remarkably, the bone healing indicates that this animal survived for months, or perhaps even years, with this debilitating disability. It was forced to adapt, learning to hunt and subdue struggling prey, using only its jaws and its remaining functional arm. This resilience proves that these animals were not mindless monsters, but survivors capable of adapting to extreme physical limitations. Every day was a battle against infection and starvation, yet it refused to die, driven by an instinct meant for survival. We now travel forward in time to meet the Edmontosaurus, a gentle giant that faced the most terrifying predator of all. In the world of the Cretaceous, escaping a Tyrannosaurus rex was a statistical impossibility, yet one lucky individual defied the odds. Paleontologists discovered two tail vertebrae from an Edmontosaurus that told a story of a violent, near-death encounter with a tyrant. Embedded deep within the bone was a broken tooth tip from a Tyrannosaurus rex, a souvenir from a failed assassination attempt. The herbivore managed to tear itself free, leaving the predator with a broken tooth and escaping with a grievous open wound. What makes this discovery truly incredible is not the attack itself, but the undeniable evidence of what happened afterwards. The bone had actually grown over and around the broken tooth, sealing the weapon of the enemy inside its own body. This proves the animal survived the infection and the trauma, living for years carrying a piece of its killer inside it. It is a testament to the incredible immune systems of these prehistoric beasts, capable of walling off deadly foreign objects. These three stories are just a tiny fraction of the millions of silent battles fought in the prehistoric wilderness every day. Nature does not care about fairness or mercy. It only cares about who has the strength and luck to see tomorrow. When we look at museum skeletons, we often see static statues, but we must learn to see them as living biographies. Every bump on a bone, every twisted joint, and every fused vertebra is a chapter of pain that the animal endured. Survival of the fittest is not just a phrase in a textbook. It was the absolute law written in blood. They faced volcanic winters, scorching droughts, and aggressive rivals, all while their bodies carried the heavy burden of previous battles. We can only wonder how long Big Al would have ruled his territory if that single toe had not become infected. But nature offers no what-ifs, only the cold reality of cause and effect that leads to either life or death. Their immune systems were likely incredibly robust, capable of recovering from trauma that would require intensive care for humans today. Without doctors, they relied on rest, saliva, and sheer biological stubbornness to pull them through the darkest nights of pain. The fact that we find so many healed fractures proves that dinosaurs were tough, resilient, and incredibly hard to kill. Those who survived their injuries lived to pass on their genes, creating generations of animals built to endure extreme hardship. The scar on the Edmontosaurus tail was not a mark of shame, but a badge of honor and ultimate survival. Today, science allows us to act as coroners for these ancient giants, piecing together the stories of their final moments. We bridge the gap of millions of years, feeling the echo of their pain and respecting their will to live. Bone is bone, pain is pain. The biological reality of suffering is a universal constant that connects all living things. Even the most heavily armored tanks of the Cretaceous were not safe from the brutal physics of their violent world. The environment itself was a killer, testing their limits with floods, droughts, and diseases that left no trace in stone. Microscopic enemies were often more dangerous than giant carnivores, waging a silent war inside the bodies of these titans. In death, Big Al provided life for scavengers, continuing the endless cycle of energy transfer in the prehistoric ecosystem. The night sky they looked up at was different from ours, but the struggle for existence beneath it remains unchanged. Every migration was a gamble, and every river crossing was a roll of the dice with death waiting underwater. These fossils serve as the only written records of a time before history, written in the language of trauma. Millions of years have turned their pain into stone, preserving their stories for us to uncover and learn from today. It is fascinating to realize that the birds outside our windows are the direct descendants of these resilient survivors. They carry the legacy of resilience in their DNA, a genetic memory of a time when giants walked the earth. Big Al should be remembered not just as a victim of disease, but as a warrior who fought until the end. The Dilophosaurus teaches us that physical deformity does not mean the end of life, but the beginning of adaptation. And the Edmontosaurus reminds us that sometimes luck and a strong will to live are the only weapons you need. Their world was cruel, violent, and short, but it was also filled with the undeniable, unstoppable power of life. Eventually, an asteroid would bring an end to their age, but nothing could erase the evidence of their struggle. Even in the face of global extinction, life found a way to persist, adapt, and eventually evolve into us. So, the next time you see a dinosaur fossil, look closer at the bumps, the breaks, and the rough patches. Do not just see a monster. See a living creature that felt pain, fear, and the overwhelming desire to survive. Pain is the universal price of admission for life, a cost that has been paid by every creature in history. The majestic illusion we spoke of at the beginning is not entirely false. There is majesty in their resilience. There is a profound beauty in the ability to endure suffering and keep moving forward against all odds. These ancient bones are not just rocks. They are monuments to the stubborn, unbreakable spirit of life on Earth. We hope this journey into the medical history of dinosaurs has changed the way you view these prehistoric giants. If you enjoyed this deep dive into paleopathology, please like the video and subscribe for more ancient mysteries. Check out our other videos where we explore the hunting tactics and evolutionary secrets of the world's deadliest predators. Your support helps us bring these forgotten stories back to life and share the wonders of the past. Life is a struggle, and every scar tells a story of a battle won against the forces of nature. Thank you for watching Ancient Predator Zone. Remember that survival is the only victory that truly matters in nature.